This is a picture video tutorial on making the Chic Handbags Zoe Satchel. See the top of the pattern instructions for directions on cutting out your fabric. Now let's get started. First, we'll work on your handles. You'll need 2 handle pieces, 4 O-rings, and fabric clips. Pull each handle piece through 2 O-rings. Now place the short ends of each handle piece together with right sides of the fabric facing. Align the ends and clamp in place. Sew the ends of each handle piece together along the 0.5-inch seam allowance. Now fold back the seam allowance as shown below. Top stitch your seam allowances down about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch from the center seam line using an extended stitch length. Place the seams in the middle of the handles. Right sides of the handles fabric should be facing each other. Pull your O-rings to either end of the handles as shown. Sew one long side of each handle along the 0.5-inch seam allowance. Stop sewing about 1 to 1.5 inches away from the O-rings at either end of the handle. Open your handle and lay it flat with the wrong side of the fabric facing up. You are now going to fold in the unsewn seam allowances so that they meet the sewn seam allowance in the middle of the handle. Start folding in the seam allowances in the middle of the handle and work your way outward. Fold in the seam allowances all along the length of the handle, even through the O-rings. Bring the folded seams together and clamp in place. Top stitch all around the perimeter of the handles at about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Use an extended stitch length. Sew the long unsewn seam first, then across the first O-ring, down the second long side, and across the second O-ring. You don't want to backstitch here. Start and end the top stitching in the same place, and then use a sewing needle to pull your strings to one side of the handle and tie them off. Next, you'll work on your strap. Get your strap piece and 2 claw clasps. Pull your strap through both claw clasps. Then sew your strap just as you did your handles. Sew the short ends together, right sides together. Top stitch down the seams, then sew one long side of the strap, fold in your seam allowances, and top stitch. If you had to make your strap out of 2 separate pieces, then sew the ends of 2 pieces together, forming a single loop, and top stitch down your seam allowances at either end. Place the sewn seams together in the center of the strap and prepare your strap as you did the handle. Your finished handles and strap should look like this. Now we will begin preparing the front detail, tab, and buckle pieces. You'll need double-sided tape or glue and some scrap vinyl. We are going to tape or glue these pieces to the scrap piece of vinyl to give them additional strength for attaching the handles later. Glue or tape down your front detail and 4 tab pieces to your scrap piece of vinyl. Wrong sides of the fabric should be facing. Tape or glue only 2 of the 4 buckle pieces. The remaining 2 will not have backing. Make sure to adhere the edges of your pattern pieces to the scrap vinyl. Once the glue has dried or you've finished taping, cut out the front detail, tab, and buckle pieces from the scrap vinyl. Set your front detail piece aside. Top stitch your 4 tab and 2 buckle pieces at about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. You don't want to backstitch here. It is better to use a sewing needle to pull the ends of your threads through to the back side of the pieces and tie them off. There are many raw edges in this pattern. If you do not find it aesthetically pleasing to see raw edges on your finished bag, you can coat them with leather edge paint. A Q-tip, dye roller, or the applicator that comes with your paint can be used to apply it to the raw edges. You'll want to do this for the following pattern pieces: tab, buckle, collar, front detail, bottom detail, corner detail, zipper border, and the zipper tab. Note, you only need to paint the edges without the 0.5-inch seam allowance border. The sides with the seam allowances will be hidden. Carefully paint the edges of the pattern pieces listed in the step above. In addition to painting the raw edges of the 2 buckle pieces you did not glue or tape to vinyl, paint the centers of the wrong side of the fabric. Set your painted pattern pieces aside to dry. Now we are going to be adding details to the body panels of your bag. get your external body, collar, bottom detail, and corner detail pieces. Do not apply interfacing to the body panel at this time. Using double-sided tape to hold them in place, place and align your bottom detail pieces on both bottom corners of the external body panel. Top stitch each bottom detail piece down at about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Now tape your collar piece along the top of your external body panel. Align the curved edge and top stitch it down. Tape your corner detail pieces in the top corners of the external body panel and top stitch them down. If you have issues sewing multiple layers of vinyl, consider trimming off the external body panel and the portion of the collar that is hidden behind the corner detail piece. This may help to reduce bulk when attaching the lining to the external bag later. Now get your buckle pieces, 2 buckles, and leather hole punch. Punch small holes in the center of the 2 buckle pieces without vinyl backing. Pull your buckles through the holes and fold the pieces in half as shown. Punch a hole 1 inch from one end of your buckle pieces with vinyl backing. Now pull the pieces with the backing through the buckle as shown. If you have a center bar on your buckle, pull the piece up and over that as well. The buckles shown do not have a center bar. Now get 4 rivets, your rivet tool, and hammer. Punch holes in the top and bottom of the buckle piece with backing at about 0.5 inches from either end. Note, because my buckle doesn't have a center bar, I had to punch holes through both the backed and unbacked pieces to hold the buckle down. If you have a buckle with a center bar, you can simply punch the top of the piece with the backing and the folded piece without backing. Place your buckle in the center of the bottom detail piece at an angle as shown. Be sure to keep the buckle away from the external body panel seam allowance so you can sew the bag together later. Mark the holes on the body panel and punch through the body panel as well to install your rivets. To install your rivets, place the curved end of your rivet tool on the rivet with cap in place and hit the rivet a few times with a hammer to secure it in place. Wiggle the finished rivet around. The cap should not move. This lets you know it is secure. Your buckles should look something like this. Your panel should look like this. Next, you'll need the interfacing for your body panel, 2 pocket pieces, front detail, and 7-inch zipper. Place your interfacing on the wrong side of the external body panel. Clamp the interfacing in place. Place the pocket piece on the body panel with right sides of the fabric facing. The pocket should be centered and 1 inch from the bottom of the panel. Tape the pocket down to hold it in place. Now place your front detail piece on top and center it. The top ends of the front detail piece should extend about 1 inch from the top of the body panel. Trace the window of the front detail piece onto the pocket piece. Now draw another rectangle around the first piece at about 1/8 of an inch wider than the first rectangle. Make sure interfacing is on the wrong side of the external body panel and clamped in place. Sew around the wider rectangle to attach the pocket to your panel. Now draw 2 triangles at each end of the rectangle pointing inwards. Then draw a line in the center of the rectangle connecting the points of the 2 triangles. Cut a hole in the pocket and panel along the center line and legs of the triangles you drew. Try to cut as close to the corners of the rectangle as possible. Turn your panel over and trim off excess interfacing inside the window to reduce bulk. Pull your pocket piece through the hole to the wrong side of the external body panel. Fold back the seam allowances of the rectangle. Use clamps to hold the window open. Turn the panel over, pin the pocket piece to the interfacing. Do not go through the vinyl to hold the pocket in place as you are sewing. Sew the ends of your zipper shut. Close your zipper and place it behind the window. Align the pull to one side of the window. Top stitch around the perimeter of the window about 1/8 of an inch from the edge to secure the zipper to the pocket. Turn your panel over and pin up your pocket piece to keep it out of the way when attaching the front detail piece. Position the window of the front detail piece over the zipper window you created. Top stitch the window of the front detail piece to the pane at 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Pull the ends of the front detail piece through the O-rings of one handle piece and fold the ends underneath the panel. The fold will be slightly above where the collar and corner detail pieces meet. Tuck the ends of the front detail piece underneath. Top stitch the front detail down around the perimeter of the front detail piece and across the O-rings as shown. Install rivets into the front detail piece as shown, slightly above and below the stitch across the rings as shown. Turn the panel over and sew your other pocket piece to the first. Right sides of the fabric should be facing. Note, you are not sewing the pocket to the body panel, just the two pocket pieces together. Next, we will work on the other body panel. Now you will need your other external body panel and interfacing, 2 tabs, collar, 2 corner detail, and 2 O-rings. Top stitch your collar and corner detail pieces to the external body panel as you did before. Punch 2 holes in the tab pieces, 0.75 inches and 1.5 inches from either end. Pull your 2 tab pieces through the O-rings of your handle piece and fold them in half as shown. Place the tabs on the body panel piece. Orient them so that the O-rings are in the same position as they are on the other body panel. Mark and punch holes in the body panel and use rivets or Chicago screws to attach the tabs to the panel. Next, get your external side panels and interfacing, the remaining 2 tabs, 2 O-rings, and 4 rivets or Chicago screws. Pull your tabs through the O-rings, fold in half, and punch holes as you did on the prior step. Place your interfacing on the wrong side of the external side panel pieces. Place your tabs on the panel so that the folded edge is 1.5 inches below the top of the panels. Attach the tabs to the panels using your Chicago screws or rivets. Next, get your bottom panel in external fabric, interfacing, and purse feet. Clamp the interfacing to the wrong side of the bottom panel piece. Install your purse feet, per your manufacturer's instructions, through the fabric and interfacing at all 4 corners. The feet should be 1.5 inches from the long sides and 2 inches from the short sides. Now we are ready to assemble the external bag. With right sides of the panels facing, place the 2 external side panel pieces along the sides of one external body panel piece. Clamp them in place as shown. There is a slight difference between the length of the side panels and the body panel due to the pattern software adding the seam allowance border to angled pieces. Look at your paper pattern piece to align the corner points. Sew your side panels to the body panel along the 0.5-inch seam allowance. Repeat and sew the other side of the side panels to the other external body panel. Clamp one long edge of your bottom panel to the bottom edge of one of the body panels. Right sides of the fabric should be facing each other. Sew the bottom panel to the body panel, but do not sew into the 0.5-inch seam allowance at the ends. Repeat to attach the other long side of the bottom panel to the other body panel. Next, we will sew the short ends of the bottom panel to the external side panels. You can make small snips into the seam allowances to allow the corners to flex so you can line them up properly for sewing. Be careful not to cut across the sewing line. Sew the sides of the bottom panel to the sides of the external side panels. Trim off the seam allowances in the corners and along the edges to reduce bulk. Turn your external bag right side out and set it aside. Next, we'll work on the bag lining, starting with the zipper panel. Get your 4 zipper panel pieces, zipper tab, and 14+-inch zipper. On the wrong side of the fabric, mark the 0.5 and 1-inch points from either end of each zipper panel as shown. You only need to do this on one long side. Place one zipper panel with the right side of the fabric facing up. Place your zipper on top facing up. It can be open or closed. Align your zipper to the top edge of the panel. The open end of your zipper should be flush with the left short edge of the panel. Then place your other zipper panel on top so that right sides of the 2 panels are facing. Photo from another bag. The zipper should be sandwiched in between the two panels. Make sure the sides of the panels with the 0.5 and 1 inch points are on the same side as the zipper. Place your zipper panels at your sewing machine so that the long tail is facing away from you. Backstitch to the 0.5 inch point on the end with the long zipper tail. Then sew the panels and zipper together along the 1/4 inch seam allowance, stopping at the 1 inch mark on the other side. When you get to the 1 inch point, lift the foot of your sewing machine and pull out the zipper to the right 90 degrees. Put your foot back down and sew to the 0.5 inch mark, then backstitch. The end of your zipper should look like this. You can trim off the excess zipper. Now sew the short end of the panel along the 0.5 inch seam allowance. Trim off the excess seam allowance and slightly trim the corner. Turn the panel right side out. Use a dull pointed object to push out the corner. The end of your panel should look like this. Now, fold back the seam allowances on the end of the panel with the long zipper tail. Fold the panel back so that right sides of the fabric are facing outward. If you like, you can trim some of the excess seam allowances in the folded corner. Top stitch the zipper panel down along both short sides and along the zipper. Your panel should look like this. Repeat that process to attach the remaining zipper panels to the other side of your zipper. Next, we want to attach the zipper tab to the zipper tail. Fold your tab piece in half and place the end of your zipper inside. Top stitch the tab to the end of the zipper at about 1/8 of an inch from the edge along the sides and across the zipper. Next, we'll work on your lining zipper pocket. Get your lining body panel, 2 pocket pieces, zipper border, and 7-inch zipper. Note, I strongly recommend stabilizing your lining pieces with SF101, or at least the area around the zipper window, to prevent excess wrinkling and fabric distortion. Pin 1 pocket piece to 1 lining body panel so that it is centered and 1 inch from the bottom of the panel. The right sides of the fabric should be facing each other. Pin in place. Place the zipper border so that it is 1.5 inches from the top of the body panel and centered. Trace the window on your pocket piece. Now, similar to the external bag's pocket, draw a 1/8 inch border around the window, making a slightly larger rectangle. Sew along the perimeter of the larger rectangle, securing the pocket to the lining body panel. Draw a line in the center and triangles pointing inwards on the far sides of the rectangle. Trim along the center lines and along the legs of the triangles, getting as close to the corners as possible. Pull the pocket piece through the hole that you made to the other side of the panel. Iron the window flat. Hand or machine sew the ends of your zipper shut. Close your zipper and place it behind the window you made. Pin it in place. Sew along the perimeter of the window at about 1/8 of an inch from the edge to secure the zipper to the body panel. Place your border on top of the zipper. Top stitch around the perimeter of the window to secure the zipper border to the panel. Turn your panel over and fold up the pocket to keep it out of the way. Pin in place. Top stitch around the outside perimeter of the zipper border to attach it to the panel. Turn the panel over and unpin the pocket. Sew your other pocket piece to the first with right sides of the fabric facing. Again, you are sewing the pocket pieces together, not the pocket to the lining body panel. Now get your other lining body panel, top bands, and the zipper panel you made. Trim the seam allowance off the top of your top band paper pattern piece. Use it to trace the seam allowance on the wrong side of your top band pieces. This will make completing the bag easier later. Place the zipper panel along the top edge of one lining body panel. It should be centered. Now place the top band on top with right sides of the fabric facing. The wide base of the top band should be centered and aligned with the top edge of the zipper and lining body panels. Sew the band, zipper panel, and lining body panel together along the 0.5 inch seam allowance as shown. Be mindful of the pocket piece on the back side if you are using that lining body panel. Fold back the top band and top stitch it down as shown. Repeat to attach the other lining body panel and top band to the other side of the zipper panel. Again, be mindful of keeping the pocket piece out of the way. Next, we will work on your side panels. You'll need your lining side panels and side bands. Similar to the lining body panels, align the wide base of the side bands to the center of the top edge of the side panels, with right sides facing. Sew the pieces together along the seam allowance. Then fold back the side bands and top stitch them down as shown. Now we are ready to begin assembling the lining. Pin the lining side panels to either side of one body panel as you did on the external bag. Try to align the side and top band bottom edges. Sew the side panels to the lining body panel along the 0.5-inch seam allowance. Repeat to sew the other lining body panel to the side panels. Your lining should look like this. Next, we'll attach your bottom panel to the bag's lining. You will sew the lining bottom panel the same way as you sewed the bottom panel on the external bag. Pin the long edges of the bottom panel to the bottom of the lining body panels. Sew the long edges, except this time you need to leave a 6 to 8 inch opening in the middle of one long edge so that you can turn the bag right side out later. Be sure not to sew into the seam allowances. Then sew the sides of the bottom panel to the bottom of the side panels. Now we are ready to complete the bag. Get your external bag and lining. Pull the inside out lining over the right side out external bag. Align the top edges and clamp in place. Be sure to open or trim off your seam allowances at the corners to reduce bulk. Sew the lining to the external bag. Hopefully you have tested the number of layers your sewing machine can sew with decent stitches. If your machine struggles a bit, trim the seam allowances of the sections with multiple layers. Pull your external bag through the hole in your bag's lining to turn the bag right side out. Smooth the seams and trim seam allowances as needed. Fold down the top edge and clamp in place. Slowly and carefully top stitch the top edge of your bag. Pull out the hole in your lining and fold the seam allowances in. Clamp the hole shut. Sew on top or slip stitch the hole in your lining closed. Enjoy your new bag and be sure to subscribe.